I was quite, and pardon the pun, I was quite relieved that there was a comfort break a few minutes ago, because I figured the reason Christian put me in the middle of this with a creative presentation in a room full of, I'm assuming, data geeks, was that I was the comfort break for the day. So I'm pleased that that's probably not the case. And I say geeks because I see a few T-shirts, a few pens in pockets, even a pair of shorts up the back there, so relax. So why would we talk about creativity and in an afternoon where we're really focusing in very heavily on data and analytics? And the reason is that this particular case study is really about how we took some of the learnings that we have in terms of the work that we do currently in the media attribution, in retargeting and analytics, and actually wove that into a creative idea. And in truth, just being good at analytics and just being good at your media attribution and understanding where you're spending your money is only part of the puzzle. You know, you can't eliminate the fact that creativity is still a very large driver in your marketing plans. And so if you can interweave that in any way, then you kind of get to a bit of nirvana. Somebody else also pointed out that perhaps putting up the pretty girl was a nice distraction from having to look at me, so that's probably true as well. Now, work out which way this goes. Okay. So I want you to cast your minds back, not that far, just a year or so, a little bit over a year or so. And 2011 was not the prettiest year for Qantas. And for the entire business was probably one of the most difficult years they'd ever faced. It started with an A380 engine failure leaving Singapore. And if anybody's ever read the book QF, I think it's 34, it might be 32, but QF 34, that went within 5 millimetres of possibly being the worst air disaster in history. I mean, if you look at the detail there, that fragment of engine when it exploded missed a fuel line by literally 5 millimetres. Think about it, it's half your width of your finger, and that plane was history. And so amazing and a very difficult start off their flagship aircraft, part of the whole new recreation of that brand, and immediately they're having to deal with a crisis. Not long after that, they had another disaster, and that disaster was in the social media space, and won't dredge into that, we weren't involved, around Qantas Luxury. And that was a difficult area for them to manage as well. So things were kind of going from bad to worse. But it was to get even more difficult than that. And by, I think it was November of that year, due to an ongoing, long-running dispute with engineers and pilots and baggage handlers, Alan Joyce, the CEO, took the amazing, difficult, challenging, right, wrong, whatever you want to put to it, decision to ground the fleet. First time ever in the history of an airline that an airline had said, right, we're not flying, we're going to stop, and they stopped the aircraft wherever they were, anywhere in the world, and said, till we resolve it, we're not going to do it. And that might seem, if you weren't involved in that, that might seem like a fairly bold thing to do, but so what? That meant that there were, at that point in time, I can't remember the exact number, but 60,000, 70,000 customers stranded around the world. And you can imagine the fury and the anti-sentiment towards what was one of Australia's great and leading brands was changing, and was changing rapidly. And in fact, was heading south at a rapid rate of knots. So we, as part of Publicis, one of our partner, or brothers and sisters, if you like, is Publicis Mojo, and they had been working on an internal campaign with Qantas, not the core creative work, but an internal comms strategy with the Qantas staff. And an idea had come out of that was starting to gain some traction, and it got traction at the board level at Qantas, and before long they were asked to actually take this and develop this into a different space. And so they came down to us, and we lived downstairs from them, and literally said, we need to speak to you for a little bit. The client is insisting that we have a digital component to what we're about to do. And of course, you know, those who frequent media agencies know it's all about the TV commercial. Everything else doesn't matter. But the client was being very insistent. We want a digital component to this, we want a social component to this, so go away and come back with that idea. So they came down and said, you've got to help us, guys. We're going to show you a script, we're going to show you quite an amazing idea, and we'd like you to think about how you could integrate that. The idea that they came up with was, as you'd be pretty much familiar with now, you're the reason we fly, but the beginnings of that idea was the sense of taking the tagline that appears on all the aircraft, Spirit of Australia, and adding an S to that, and an NS to that, making it the Spirit of Australians. And that was the starting point to say the airline is no longer about aircraft and itself, but we want to drive a change of attitude and a change of behaviour in our people and in our customers, that we're actually here for you, and that you are the reason that we fly. So looking at those scripts and looking at the, let's call it an idea or a strategy, we were challenged with how do you make this happen. Now their expectation was matching luggage, and we hate matching luggage. So matching luggage is, you know, we're going to produce a whole series of banners and microsites that all got the same creative idea on them and the same shot of the aeroplane, and it's all going to fit together nicely. And that's kind of what they were hoping we might come back with. About 2 or 3 hours later, we called them back and we said, look, we actually have a sort of an idea, but it's pretty bold and it's never been done before. Do you want to talk about it? So we got together with the creative team there, and the essence of what we were saying is, you know what, you're making this all very personal. You're making it about the reason that you fly, and you're talking to individuals. What if we actually made the advertising personal? What about every time that somebody went to their computer and was looking at publishing sites or whatever, the ads that appeared for them were actually targeted exactly to them? I said, well, don't you do that already? Isn't that kind of retargeting? He said, no, what if we had their name and their photo inside those ads, inside those banners? So it was the ultimate of personalisation. Now, I want to stop and say here, from the outset, for the probably secret police of privacy that are sitting in the room, this was all done with permission. So for those of you who are worried about this, before somebody actually signed up to this campaign, they were asked permission to be as part of this campaign. So it was a permission-based campaign, and surprisingly way more successful than perhaps we'd even credited it with, because there's always this sense that if you put too many steps in the way or you ask too much permission, it's going to be less and less successful. So congratulations to the team at Mojo. They got very excited about it, and in fact a whole series of other things then started to build out of this campaign. So starting with the idea of changing the plane TVC, the campaign structure grew from there, and we had the campaign was broken up into 3 phases. So the first phase of that was this invite phase, and essentially this is largely where we got involved at the forefront of this, and this went for about 3 to 4 weeks. And it was led by a changing of the plane TVC. You may remember that. I haven't brought that one along. I've got too many TVCs as it is. And it was the one where the guy comes up on the scissor jack and puts the N and the S on the side of the plane and talks about this change that's coming, and then invites you to go to the microsite, invites you to register with Qantas U. And so the end game of that is that you might, by doing that, by going to the site and registering, you could be part of the new TVC that was coming, and you might even get your name put on one of the planes. We activated all this, even though the awareness of that and the call to action was largely through television. The activation of that was through the digital components, and that was a microsite, a mobile app, both on iOS and Android, outdoor and social, and I'll walk you through the elements of that because that's where it gets a little interesting in how we went about doing that. During that invite phase, customers could begin to see their photos and their names appearing in banner ads, and even in some cases in digital outdoor executions. It moved then to the launch phase, and that was led by the You're the Reason We Fly campaign, which we're all very familiar with. It was a new soundtrack backing that, which was specially written and commissioned by Daniel Johns, and that was then promoted on YouTube, and there was a whole campaign around that. They linked it into and was very much a part of the Olympics, because obviously Olympics is not only a high-profile event for them and a time when Qantas is top of mind, but it's also a high travel period, and it made an awful lot of sense that this should all drive towards the London Olympics. And then the last phase, it's a phase we're still in at the moment, is called the proof phase. And that is again back to being largely digital phase, and it's driving some 91 changes that Qantas have introduced into their business at plane level, at check-in level, at call centre level, and that's largely been driven out of consumer comment and consumer feedback via their social channels and their call centre channels. And then what we've just launched now is that selected customers' names appear on what started out to be 2 planes is now on 4 planes. So their actual names appear on the side of the aircraft. So the brand campaign, I'll just quickly play that for you.
Australians, you believe in openness, getting out there and doing more, seeing more and expecting more. You believe anything is possible. You're the new spirit of Australia. While you might fly for many different reasons, we fly for one. You're the reason we fly.
Okay, so that's the money slide. That's, we're finished with the TV commercial and everything else now. I've got another 70-odd people have seen the TV commercial, so it's paid for. Let's move on to the digital strategy. So what we set out to do in the digital strategy is make this direct and personal for every Australian. We wanted to help people reconnect, show that we were listening to them, and basically try and reach them on a one-by-one basis. We wanted to drive the thought that Australians feel that Qantas existed just for them, that an airline that is built by Australians for Australians, and that was very important that we move back into that space. As I said earlier, it had multiple touch points, digital touch points in particular, mobile, social, desktop and outdoor, and we'll work our way through that now and just have a look at some of the aspects of that. So the QantasU.com and the QantasU mobile application, what we asked people to do in that space was we asked people to upload photos. Now they could either, and their name, address details, they could either do that on a microsite or they could download a mobile app and actually take a photo of themselves with the phone and upload it straight away into the site. I don't know how many of you have been involved in getting an app up on the iTunes, but I've got to tell you, it is the most complicated process you'll ever have. Now, at a normal level where we do lots of other apps, it's pretty straightforward. When you're doing something that is actually not really related to anything else except an advertising campaign, that is particularly difficult. So it was a challenge in its own right. The reason we wanted to do that and what was so important is the end frame in the commercial that you just saw before has the mosaic of all the people in that. Most mosaics that are done in that format are actually done with 100 or so photographs, and then they're digitally altered, and then they're kind of grouped together, and that's how they become. So when it was actually, the challenge was put forward, no, we actually want to have a minimum of 25,000 actual people in that mosaic. Some of the producers at some of the television production houses were horrified, and there was a lot of work in actually making that real. So as you'll see in a moment, every single one of those photos is a real photo uploaded by an individual, and the only change is in the white section. Some people were approached to reshoot their photograph with a white background or get permission to put a white background on there so that we could actually use those in the kangaroo component of that. So that's a shot of the iPhone app and the mosaic itself. The second part of that was then there's some 2,000 odd names written on the actual Qantas planes, and so the aspect of that was quite challenging is that all those who've been involved in any of the any social activities that have got consumer input is the need for moderation. And we needed moderation on this in real time. So there was no ability to wait 24 hours or 2 days. People logged their name in. They wanted to be able to see it in the ad straight away on the iPhone app or whatever. And so we actually then had literally a service level agreement for 2 hours. But to their credit, the company that did that turned most of them around inside about 5 minutes. And so what you were looking for there was obviously, I won't give you the list of things that they weren't allowed to put into photographs, but use your imagination, and pretty much everyone that you can imagine did appear at some time on the upload, but was thankfully and thoughtfully removed before it went live. So people are amazing when they've given that opportunity, I find. Also strange names, very strange names. Also Facebook, where we again looked at the last part of that, which was the proof stage, where we introduced change 59, change 80. Any of you who've been following that will have seen that appearing over and over again. And then lastly, the names on the planes. The actual real names. That in itself is quite a challenge. You don't just go around sticking stickers on aeroplanes, as we've learnt. It's actually quite a scientific process, and it's a very special material, and it's very, very expensive, and the plane has to be held up for half a day while they apply it. So all in all, it's way, way bigger than you'd ever imagine. So let me just play a quick animation on how people were invited to participate in the program itself.
Everything we do is focused on the people who fly with us. This is why we want to invite you to be part of our new campaign. You could get your name on the side of a Qantas International A380 or a domestic Boeing 737, and your photo could appear in our online advertising or as part of a mosaic of Australian faces online or on TV. When you get involved, you can also enter our competition to win one of 5 prizes of 500,000 Qantas frequent flyer points. There are many simple ways for you to get involved. You can visit qantas.com/you, participate through our Facebook page, or download our mobile app to submit your name and upload your image. If you upload your photo, you might see yourself in Qantas advertising, for example in digital banners or in a mosaic of Australian faces on TV. When you get involved, you can then enter our competition to win one of 5 prizes of 500,000 Qantas frequent flyer points. And if you're not already a Qantas frequent flyer, we're giving you the chance to sign up for free. By getting involved, you'll be helping to give something back. We'll donate $5 to Mission Australia for each person who takes part, up to $100,000. Join with us and help transform lives and create a brighter future for Australians in need. You can get involved today. Visit qantas.com/you. Increase and track your participation at any time. Unlock your personalised banners and share your custom page with friends. You'll also be able to explore your personal online advertising and locate your picture within a mosaic of Australian faces. And you can search for names appearing on Qantas planes. You can also get involved on Facebook. Share it with your friends and encourage them to get involved. If you download our mobile app, you can capture the perfect portrait, add filters, and edit your image before uploading it directly from your iPhone or Android smartphone. Everything we do is focused on the people who fly with us. While you might fly for many different reasons, we fly for one. You're the reason we fly. Visit qantas.com/you to get involved today.
So the first part was the personalisation of the banners, and I'll come to that towards the end of that, exactly how we did it, and that's kind of the data integration component that we're here to talk about. But then once the campaign launched, there was obviously the opportunity to go to the microsite with unique, your name and I think a unique number attached to that, and then you could actually go in and it would zone in on the area, then zone in on the grouping, and then literally zone in on the on your photograph in that space. Second one, and I won't play the animation here because I know it's not linked into that, is the actual looking for the name on the plane. So there's a 3D animation that sits behind that and will show you exactly which aircraft and where your name is on that aircraft. And so as I said, there was some 60-odd thousand people that participated and uploaded names, and about 2,000 were actually selected to appear on the plane. They were then sent an email and told that their name was being selected, also given a schedule of when that plane would fly. So if there are some people who later in social media made special effort to either be at the airport or actually fly. So what's so unusual and unique about this? There's a couple of world firsts that were incorporated in this. So retargeting is nothing new, and surprisingly and sadly, it's amazing how many companies don't use retargeting or don't understand retargeting, the ability to come back once you've identified people who visited your site or visited your the publisher, and then retarget them with different messages. So we used that concept, but then thought of it in a different way of how we could use that same technology to deliver a unique and personal banner featuring their name and a portrait. The second side of it, which was outside of the retargeting scope, was for all those who watched the Minority Report, that's kind of nirvana for the digital geeks, is that's what we want to create one day. And so this idea that you would walk down George Street and every electronic billboard that you passed would suddenly start waving at you going, "Hi Doug, you're the reason we fly," was kind of the driving force behind that. And we didn't quite get it there, but we achieved, I would say, about 90% of that experience. Using a partnership with AdShell and iPhone technology. So just looking at some of the personalised banners, I don't know, did anyone in the room participate in it, by the way? Come on, somebody must. That would be good. Okay, so 1, 2, excellent, 3. So Erin here, Erin uploaded, you see here the ads appearing, Erin Jackson, you're the reason we fly. And that was across all the publisher sites, a whole multitude of publisher sites in Australia, and placed essentially just as traditional placements in there. The way that we did it, though, was that your traditional retargeting is only at crowd level, and we wanted to go beyond crowd level. We wanted to go at a very personal level. And we believe the first campaign ever, not only in Australia, we've checked globally, to serve individual users with their own individual banner and their own message, and in this case, even their own photograph. The important thing is that we couldn't rely on traditional ad-serving technology, so we couldn't rely on Atlas or DoubleClick to be able to do this for a number of technical reasons. And so what we did outside of that was use our own cookies within the banner, and we used within the banners the JavaScript, what's called JSON, and some of those of you who worked in that space would know it's a lot lighter to use, a lot more powerful, and it was the tool by which it grabbed the data being the name and the photograph. Much faster, much easier, much lighter than XML. And the one thing that we wanted to avoid in that was not relying on the publishers to do this, because we couldn't get agreement from all the publishers, and also the level of complexity required was way beyond anything they were prepared to invest in. So for those that are a little bit more technically minded, how did it actually work? So obviously we had a high reach campaign that went out there inviting people to be part of that ad campaign. High click-through rate on that. I know click-through is not the beginning, but in this case, click-through was very important. So high click-through rate on that. That took the users to the microsite. They then uploaded their name and photo on the microsite. They could also do that, as we said before, via the phone app. And then basically the rich media banners source their data from that website. So the website is holding, or the data centre attached to the website is holding the photographs and the names and a unique identifier. Using a cookie browser, not a site browser, so the browser was resident in the cookie, it was able to match the cookie ID with the ID at the data centre and pull that information in and then display the ad with the person's name and with the person's photograph in there. And then it was amplified even a level higher by then integrating the publisher retargeting in that to ensure that people who had been recognised and were going to upload that also received a higher proportion of ads from Qantas. So if that publisher had Qantas as a bought schedule on there and it saw that Erin was on there, it's going to serve Erin that ad more often than would normally be the case. And so we're able to get a high percentage of reach across that group. We call it, because you've got to give it a name, we call it total recall. Basically, it's the system of knowing exactly who's participating in the campaign, talking to them directly. It does identify consumers across a number of different touch points, like display banners, digital outdoor, and even into the mobile space. And really, if you think about it, it in a creative way can give a lot more cut through and a lot more relevance to the work that you are delivering to them. I know that this is a relatively small scale in terms of what we were doing in the Australian market, but when you look at it and think about the technology behind that and the changes in that, I think you can see that this type of targeting will continue to grow. Yeah, I stress what I said up front. It needs permission-based, but you think about clients that have large loyalty programs where we know the loyalty base, and that was what was behind this, the loyalty base are very happy to participate. They're very much advocates of the brand, were very happy to appear in the ad, thought it was a great opportunity. And so the ability then to target to those people in a very personalised sense using regular retail advertising. We didn't pay any more for those spots, by the way, than you would for any normal rich media placement. And then the last element of that campaign is the Digital U billboard. And so here we used a partnership with AdShell here in Australia in Town Hall. They had a 5-screen display, a new display that they were working with, and 4 or 5 other sites throughout the Town Hall complex. And so essentially how it worked is if you turned on your iPhone app, if you were already downloaded that app and you'd registered on that app and you had it turned on when you walked through that precinct, as you approached the billboards using technology, geosonic technology, it would recognise you, recognise the phone and display your ad on the billboard.
One hand in the ocean reaching round for barren gold. This is the first time I'm seeing a campaign like this. It's very good, it's very interactive. You can see your face on there immediately.
It's usually the boring stuff you see that kind of just sits there, doesn't move. This looks quite interesting.
Yeah, I knew I'd have my name in lights this morning at some point.
This is the first time that I've noticed the interactive display as well. It's really fun.
So tall when the ship was sinking, looked down but I often think if she were the one to fall.
It's quite unique actually, haven't seen it before. Gets a lot of engagement from everyone. It's always nice to see your photograph, at least I like it.
It was very straightforward and a bit of fun on the way into work in the morning.
I think it's a logical next step I mean, if they can personalise it and address you directly and get your attention as a human being.
I think this is really fun and interactive, and it's a nice way to get people engaged.
Hide from all the commotion, all night in the ocean, swimming round. The waves are slow, and be so naive, you knew that I believe in anything at all.
Okay, so that's all the fun bits. Let's have a look at some of the results off the back of that. In a lot of ways, it was, for a short campaign, it was a resounding success. We needed 25,000 people to upload their photos in order for the totality of the campaign to work. There was a lot of hesitancy about whether or not we would achieve that in that environment, the Qantas environment at that time. But in the first 24 hours, 20,000 people uploaded photographs and details onto the site. 57,000 customers signed up in the first 3 weeks, and I think it finally topped out at about 69,000 customers. And thinking about, these are people who have gone beyond the advocate stage. These are people who are prepared to have their name and their photograph associated with a brand that was really had some issues and really struggling at that time. So Qantas were absolutely and utterly delighted with that. There were 355,000 unique visitors to the Qantas U site. Over 10 million banners, personal banners were served. You know, when you think about it, there's only 60,000. How many times did they keep looking at their own banner? Because remember, that's individual personal banners. That's not all the other banners that went out. That's just the ones that had a name and address stuck on. No, sorry, a name and a photo stuck on them. So vanity pays. And 245,000 click-throughs. We think we ignited the spirit of Australia, or Australians. And it was a great campaign. It was challenging, but in a lot of ways created some breakthrough work. So it shows that data doesn't have to be that boring. It doesn't have to be all that date stamping and unique coding and everything Christian gets all excited about. It's what you do with that data, isn't it, Christian? It's what you do with the data. Yeah, I'm out of time. I've got to finish. So that's it, and happy to take any questions. Can't give you any of the secret sauce, though.